Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you are having a lovely day. Ready for some new stories from Ask a Lawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's stepsister, who demands OP shares money her dad is giving for her wedding with her. Listen to the story to find out why, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 24 female dad is married to a woman I'll call Melissa, and they've been married for 13 years. Melissa has a daughter, Sarah, 25. I didn't live with my dad full-time growing up. My parents had shared custody, but it was pretty flexible, so I'd spend on average 2 nights there a week, and my dad would normally take me to dinner one evening a week. I've never had much of a relationship with Melissa, but we've always been friendly. Sarah, on the other hand, has always been jealous of me and my relationship with my dad. Anything I was doing, she wanted to do. Anywhere I was going with my dad, she wanted to come. My dad always handled it, but I was always aware that she was clearly unhappy when I was around. My dad and I spoke about this more than once, and my dad expressed that he found Sarah always expecting things from him, a bit stressful, and that he had brought it up with Melissa, but it didn't seem to help. I haven't seen Sarah much in the last few years since I moved away, but I recently got engaged. So my fiancé and I had dinner with my dad, Melissa, Sarah, and her fiancé to celebrate. My dad made a toast and said he'd like to pay for the wedding. He then presented us with a check. I thanked him, but said we will be paying for the wedding ourselves. My dad said he wanted to contribute to our lives in some way, and my fiancé suggested we could put the money into a trust for our future child. We then continued on with the dinner. The next day, I got a call from Sarah, who said I should split the money my dad gave me for the wedding with her. I was confused and asked why. And Sarah said that my dad is a father figure to both of us. I told her if my dad wanted to give her money, he would have, and that it has nothing to do with me. Sarah started getting mad and said that I should share the money because I didn't need it. She swore at me, called me mean, spoiled, a gold digger, all sorts. Then she said it was my fault she never had a dad, and I need to share the money and admit my dad is her dad too. I was just getting so annoyed and said, "It's not my fault he doesn't love you. If you want money from him, ask him," and hung up on her. I guess she did ask him, because my dad called me and got mad at me for blowing up on her, saying I didn't have to be that harsh with her. He said it's caused a lot of drama between him and Melissa and Sarah. He said I didn't have to respond to Sarah's goading, and maybe that's true, but I don't think I'm the a-hole for saying what he was too scared to, especially when I was being blamed for something that has nothing to do with me. Well, the biggest a-hole in this situation is OP's dad. He obviously never stepped into the father role for Sarah, and she has seen the difference between how he treats OP and how he treats her. It seems like she has always been chasing him to get attention from someone who should have been a father figure to her, and he has not only rejected her, but driven a wedge between OP and her by making it obvious he had time for OP but not her. Also, if he never intended to give money towards her wedding, it was a low blow to announce in front of her and her fiancé that he wanted to pay for OP's entire wedding. He knew that such a public display of favoritism would cause a problem, and he did it anyway. On another hand, OP's stepsister isn't a child, and she needs to handle her daddy issues. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Liba Lou says, "Not the a-hole. Your stepsis clearly has some demons that are no one's responsibility but hers. I hope for the sake of her fiancé and future children that she deals with them. I'm also amused she called you a gold digger when she was the one who called you up and demanded you give her money. As for your father's troubles, this is something that he should have nipped in the bud a long time ago. I don't know where Sarah's father is or if he's alive or in her life, but it was never realistic on her part to expect your father to take his place, and that should have been made clear to her from the beginning. Maybe she should have been in therapy or something." Similar name 4489 says, "Not the a-hole. He knows how stepsister would react given the history, and yet he still chose to give you a check right in front of her at the dinner. He could have done it when he had a moment alone with you or something, could have invited the two of you for coffee or something. He set her off, not you, and he can take responsibility for it for once." Mooley says, "Honestly, your dad is the a-hole for making a big deal of presenting you with a check in front of everyone. That was a total setup for you and Sarah given your history, and a very self-aggrandizing way to go about what is otherwise a lovely and generous gesture. As between you and Sarah, I guess I'd say you're not the a-hole, only because she was so far out of line that I can understand why you pushed back, but it was still a really cruel thing to say." Husband, 30 male, and I, 30 female, have 3 kids, 8, 5, and 1. My mom, 60 female, lives with us. My sister, 25 female, and her boyfriend, 25 male, flew in to spend the week with us. Sister is vegan and gluten-free. Boyfriend has a nut allergy. For Thanksgiving, I decided to make everyone's favorite foods. I inquired ahead of time for everyone. Sister chose some things, including a dish we had as kids. It has nuts, cheese, gluten, and wouldn't have tasted good adapted, so I left it out. Mom's B-Day was also this week, so I planned an outing and dinner at home. I made a display tower of sushi with labels, ingredients lists for everything. I paid for most of my sister and boyfriend's meals, and/or cooked all meals, ensuring they met dietary standards. They stayed in a hotel a 3-minute walk from me. They brought their dog, and even though I'm allergic to dogs, he stayed with us during the day. I gave her boyfriend a spare EpiPen, as they couldn't afford one for his nut allergy. All of this to say, I've been more than accommodating and considerate. So my sister is rude. She tells people to shut up or says that's dumb when she doesn't agree. I always make sure to say that isn't nice in front of my kids. She wants my older two to spend the night at the hotel with her one night. I said we'll see how they behave. Please don't mention it, as I don't want their hopes up for nothing. She mentions it to them right away. She told my daughter to spit on me as a joke. Her excuse, I knew she wouldn't actually do it. She makes jokes that are not funny. Will say something hurtful, and when people get offended, says I'm joking. Constantly undermines my parental authority. Example, my son does something not okay, so I intervene, and she puts her hand up to my face, says just go away. There's plenty more. So 2 days go by of this. Me constantly saying, you can't act this way, treat people like that. Being nice as my kids are watching, and her brushing me off, saying shut up, whatever. Thanksgiving, we just start to eat. My mom says how thankful she is that I cooked everybody's favorites. Sister says, except me, I wanted X dish. I explained that I couldn't make it work, that I made her Y and Z, plus adapted 3 other dishes to meet her needs. She kind of scoffs. I calmly, kids watching, tell her that since she's gotten here, she's been rude, selfish, and ungrateful. I'd like her to apologize, or she can leave. She starts with attitude. Okay, first of all, I cut her off. Apologize or get out. She argues. Back and forth for about a minute, and I lose it. Raise my voice, stand up. Husband ushers kids upstairs. Once they're gone, I lose it. I yell, get the duck out. She refuses, is now starting to cry and apologize. I'm so sorry. I never knew I upset you, etc. I say if she would listen, she would have heard my dozens of objections up to this point. She finally leaves after boyfriend and mom drag her out. I don't think a request for an apology was outrageous, and I think she made it all 9,999 times worse with her refusal, arguing. But was I the a-hole for kicking her out? I would have gone ballistic on her way sooner. It sounded like OP was being very gracious and accommodating, and she spat in the face of OP's efforts. On top of everything else OP did, she even gave her the dramatic exit she was so clearly craving. Lisa Auris says, not the a-hole. Sister can just cook for herself next year, at her own place. You were more than accommodating, and she was more than rude and acted like a brat. Medium person says, while I don't necessarily think this interaction had to happen at the Thanksgiving table, you could have pulled her aside for a conversation previously and laid down your terms for her to continue to stay and visit, possibly kick her out before dinner. I do not think you're an a-hole here. Your sister either failed to read the room repeatedly or is still stuck in that tween mindset of annoying her sibling. Either way, your sister was inappropriate, and you put up with a lot before snapping, not the a-hole. My husband and I own a cabin at a popular ski resort. We're there quite often, and sometimes bring friends and family members. But we rarely feel comfortable letting people stay there without us, since we consider it our second home. Our friends and family knows and respects this, or at least I thought so. Now, my dad and his wife wanted to go for a skiing trip with my stepsister and her family. Husband and I decided to let them stay at our cabin since we're spending Easter elsewhere. They were very happy, and I talked to my dad on several occasions, and he said it was going to be him, wife, stepsister, stepsister's husband, and stepsister's 2 kids. A couple of days after they left, I saw a picture of my stepsister's Instagram. It was of her, her family, my dad, his wife, and 4 other people I'd never seen before. The picture was taken inside our cabin. I wrote to my stepsister asking if they had a good time, and who the other people in the picture were. She responded they were friends of my dad and his wife, and I asked if they had their own cabin. She said no, they're staying with us. I was livid, and I immediately called my dad up. At first, he tried to deny it, but then he confessed that their friends had wanted to join them but couldn't afford to rent a place of their own, and Dad's wife had told them there was room in our cabin. I told him they had no right inviting other people to our house without asking, and that their friends had to go. Dad said they'd already taken days off, and they had nowhere else to go. I said it wasn't my problem. He and his wife put them in this situation, and they betrayed our trust. Dad said he talked to them, and we hung up. We have a door camera on our cabin, and saw the unknown people enter the cabin a couple of hours later. We assumed they'd pack and leave, but later that evening, they still hadn't left. I called and texted multiple times, no response. The day after, Dad called me and said he hoped I was happy, that his friends had to go home early after paying for ski passes and the trip, and they were very mad. I said again, they put their friends in this situation by letting them believe they could stay in the cabin. Dad said they didn't do any harm, and that he couldn't understand why his friends could not stay a few more nights. I repeated that he broke our trust, and that he knows we don't want strangers in the house, especially when we're not there ourselves. They're leaving in a few days, and I considered not letting them stay there again. Dad's wife is trying to make me the bad guy and calls me selfish and childish for ruining their vacation and friendship. Edit. Some of you have pointed out their family and think I should have let them bring their friends based on that. I should probably clarify that my relationship with my dad is complicated. He kicked me out when he met his new wife, and lately we've been trying to mend our relationship. I don't consider his wife or her daughter family, and I'm not very close to Dad, which is largely because of his wife. My husband and I thought lending them our cabin would be a step to get us closer, trying to be kind. But it seems they use this as an opportunity to look good in front of their friends, at the cost of their relationship to us. OP let them know the deal with staying at her cabin. They broke OP's trust and are backlighting her. OP's parents are showing that they have zero respect for OP and zero appreciation for the fact that OP was doing a very nice thing, letting them vacation there. I don't know why OP would allow them to do so in the future, unless they offer a sincere apology and agree to never do it again. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Bonnie Mani says, "Not the a-hole. Change the locks. Trust is total. You either have it or you don't. It's gone now." Tempting Penguin 369 says, "Not the a-hole. Your dad just had to play the big guy by inviting 4 people to your holiday home and violating your one simple rule. I guess he's got to find another place to stay." Mysterious System 680 says, "Not the a-hole. Don't let them back into the cabin until they have apologized, explained in detail what they did wrong, and accepted full responsibility. Otherwise, next time they'll just keep it off social media and hope that you don't check your camera." I'm father to a son, 15, and a daughter, 18. While we can afford basic living expenses and the occasional vacation, we are by no means rich. My daughter only has a minimum wage job, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom, so I'm the family's main source of income. Last year, when my daughter was applying to colleges, we came to the agreement that she would enroll in a community college. The university she wanted to attend were expensive, and I felt it wasn't worth it because 1, I have 2 children to consider, and 2, she wanted to major in classical music performance and would likely end up switching majors anyway due to poor job prospects. Later, I found out she'd applied to several universities without our knowledge and was accepted to one. I was a bit hurt that she went behind my back and spent $200 of her hard-earned money on application fees instead of using them to help our family's financial situation. But in the end, I agreed to pay 75% of her tuition, given that she switched to a more useful major. My daughter ended up attending college via Zoom due to the virus. Last week, I found an Amazon package of music books addressed to her, which I thought was suspicious because her new major didn't require music classes. I confronted her about it, and she confessed that she never actually switched majors. She had been lying to me the whole summer. I was extremely hurt, as she was essentially scamming me out of money by going back on our deal and lying about her major. She had already betrayed my trust by wasting money applying to colleges she didn't need, then again by tricking me into paying 75% of her tuition. I told her I was withdrawing my share of the tuition and that she could pay with her own money if she wanted to attend this university. She started crying that she couldn't afford it on a minimum wage job and didn't want to go into debt from student loans. She said her chosen school's music program was better than the community colleges, and she didn't want to major in any other field. I told her she should have thought of that before lying and disrespecting me like she did. She started screaming terrible names at me and accused me of favoritism, complaining about how I was willing to buy a new computer for my son, but not pay for her college education. I explained that 1, it was because my son had never betrayed my trust. 2. He needed his own computer because he intended to major in software engineering. And 3. It's not like I never bought her anything. I paid for her clothes, extracurriculars, the band instrument she's currently trying to major in. I gave her everything, and she's been nothing but ungrateful. My wife sided with my daughter and said I was being unreasonable. I just said that as our household's primary source of income, I have every right to decide what to do with my money. I'd be happy to forgive and support her if she chooses a more realistic major or transfers to a less expensive school. Clarification edit. My wife has her personal reasons for not being able to work, which I don't want to state here because they'll make our family very identifiable to the people who already know us. But her being a stay-at-home mom is very much justified, and I don't appreciate people attacking her for it. Edit. I wasn't upset with my daughter spending $200 on application fees because I desperately needed the money. I was hurt because she did it behind my back, while knowing that I'd have difficulty affording any of the colleges she applied to. She placed me in a difficult situation and jeopardized her brother's future purely on a whim. Not only that, she's also an adult living in my house without paying rent. We had a deal that she'd pay whatever amount she was comfortable with every month. It's more of a symbolic gesture than anything. It was such a shock for me to learn that after all we had talked about, she still prioritized a fantasy over her real family. City Chick 88 says, "Everyone sucks here. Your daughter shouldn't have lied. You suck because you talk about her job as helping support the family? This is confusing because it's not her job to better the financial situation of the family. You are allowed to withdraw financial support from her. There are other options out there. But be aware that it will impact on the relationship you have with your child. Just like her actions had consequences, so will yours." Deleted user says, "Everyone sucks here. Your daughter shouldn't have scammed you. Very naughty. It is also reasonable that you set a budget for your daughter. As you say, there is only so much money to go around. But as for her choice of college and major, that should be left up to her and her alone. If her college choice is a lot more expensive than you are willing to contribute, that's her problem to solve. She can take out a student loan to make up the difference, like everyone else. If she chooses a major she loves but can't get a job, again, that's her problem, not yours. Leave her to lead her own life, and stop trying to micromanage it for her." Update. After reading through the comments, I've realized that my whole approach with the whole symbolic rent idea has caused a lot of problems. I've spoken to my daughter and set a proper rent. It's very low, as I see no point putting her into unnecessary debt. But at least now there's no more confusion over what she's expected to contribute as an adult living under my roof. We're still working out the issues of college tuition and majors.